Hey guys, greetings to all. I hope all of you had a good day today. So myself Divya S. So I'm a final year CSE undergrad. So doing my Bachelor's of Engineering in Computer Science in College of Engineering Gindi, Chennai. So technically speaking, I am pulled towards exploring in web development. So in particular the backend, and I'm definitely not a UI person at all. And I worked with frameworks such as Node.js, Django, Spring, and yes. So I'm really very excited to be speaking to you all. I hope you are excited too. So moving on to the topic for today. So the topic for today is third-party API integration in Django. So these words might seem kind of unintelligible, but definitely they are not. They're going to be super easy. So before we move on to the core topic for today, let's have a quick recap on Django. So as all of us know, Django is a high-level Python framework for rapid web development for developers like you and me. So it has got really advanced features like security, and it follows the MVT pattern, that is the model view template pattern, and not the MVC controller, because Django itself takes care of the controller part by interacting with the models and views and giving us with the template. So the models in Django are actually Python classes. So these data models will be linked to your database. So any kind of database can be mapped, be it SQL or NoSQL. So coming to the admin interface, it is one of the powerful parts of Django. That is the automatic admin interface, which is created by the models which you create. So the trusted users are allowed to manage the models there. Then coming to the views, so the views allows you to handle requests and responses, and that's where the core function of your application or the core logic of your application is written. And then you have the URL patterns. So Django runs through each URL pattern, and these URLs are mapped to the views. And then coming to the templates, so Django templates are really very elegant and easy to use for rendering data. And form handling, so this form handling uses the model classes in Python, so which is used to map with the input tag of the HTML, that is the hypertext markup language. Okay, so coming to the topic for today, API. So what is this API? I'm pretty sure all of us must have heard this word somewhere or the other. Application Programming Interface. So from the abbreviation itself, we know that API is something that acts as an interface. To what? To a software component. So generally an API allows applications to communicate. So example, say we have in real time, so for any web application you take, the backend will be developed separately by a particular software and the front end by a particular application or software. Example, say front end you have many frameworks like React, Vue, whereas the backend, Node, Spring, etc. Now we need this front end and back end to interact among themselves, that is send and receive data and etc. But how does this happen? And that's where API comes into play, and that's what API is. It's gonna act as an interface or say mediator between two applications by letting them to communicate among themselves. So in real life, so let us take us this hotel example. So most of us must be familiar with this. So we go to a hotel and we want something to eat. And there's this chef in the kitchen. So consider us the customers and the chef in the kitchen as two individual applications. Now if I want to order something, will I directly go to the kitchen and order and come back? Definitely not. So that's where the waiter, so he's going to act as the API or the interface between the customer, us, and the chef in the kitchen. So whatever we say to him, so he will go say to the chef, and in turn the chef will give the order, the cooked food, so which will be delivered to us by the waiter. So simple, it's acting as an interface allowing two applications to communicate. So in addition to allowing both the applications to communicate, there's something called security which needs to be taken care of, and yes, it is secure. So in Django, if you want to create an API, you can use the API views to do so. So what is this REST API? So representational state transfer. So this type of API takes advantage of the existing protocols. So by existing protocols, meaning already a set of defined rules are there which are already defined, and we are just going to use them like that. So the most familiar example is the HTTP, so we use that to write web services. So it is diverse for users to use. So why I say diverse, it is really very flexible. It handles multiple calls and many kind of data formats. Example, there's something called the SOAP, which allows you to process with only XML data. Whereas when talking about REST, any kind of data is returned and processed, be it JSON, XML, etc., and it's open to all. So when I, as an individual developer, write a REST API, I'm not going to restrict it to particular applications. Say I'm writing it in X language, it does not mean only Y language can use it. Like any application developed in any languages can make use of it. So methods such as put, get, post, delete, etc., is supported. Open APIs. Okay, the name itself says it's like open to all. So generally an open API is a public API that provides developers with programmatic access to a software application or a web service. Okay, it's nothing, but it's just like making it free, or not free yet, not free of course, making it public so that everybody can make use of it. Example, say I'm writing an API that returns your age given your date of birth. So I feel that why don't I make this public so that everybody can use it. So I just put this in some public place such as Git or any website of that sort in that case. And yes, but at one point I feel like I need to know who is using my API and how many calls or hits it's taking place in that API. So I need to I want all these kind of information. So how do I do this? So that's where this API key comes into play. So why does some of the APIs, or in particular not only the APIs, there are many places where we'll be asked to enter a secret key or something in secret which will be sent to your mail ID and all those processing. Why is that? The main purpose is to track, control, or to identify the application of the user or who is using it, how many times it is being used, and all this information. So all this information can be tracked by using that API key. So this API key is nothing but an encrypted key, which means it is encrypted by using some algorithm. So it is a string in general. So it is specific to a user alone. So you can use this, and sometimes it's used for pricing information. So by pricing information, what I say is there are many places where you might have noticed such that you open anything, or say 3 months trial, or I use this API, so it's available for 20 requests per day. So how will I know that this API has got 20 requests on that day, and if it has exceeded that 20 requests, I need to charge. So all this is done using the API key. So I hope you got an idea of why API key. Okay, there we have this request module in Django. So this request module allows us to send HTTP requests and accept responses in Python. So it supports parsing. So anything, the body of the request can be parsed to a JSON. And again, it supports methods like put, get, and etc. So whenever you call a HTTP, you request.get or call any method using this request, the response of this would be a response object. So this request module actually extends the HTTP request and HTTP response. So we'll be using this. So you'll have to use the pip command to install requests, and how you just import it, and using that request you can call any method name. So that is how it is being used. Okay, so today we will be implementing, or I will be showing you a demo using one particular open API. So that's the Wordnik API. So we might have heard about it. So it's a dictionary API in general. So it contains definitions of words, synonyms, antonyms, examples, audios, grammar, etc., etc. So the meanings of these words are referred from 5 different dictionaries. So we'll be using the Word of the Day API. So we will be using those, using this URL which is given, and yes, that's the API key. So definitely I need a key to use this Word of the Day API. Okay, so this Word of the Day will return me a word along with its examples, definitions, etc. So it's basically a get method where I don't need to pass any data, but I will get the response. So we'll see how it is being implemented. So I've created a Django application using the start, project, etc. And I've created the Word of the Day app here. So I'm not going to use the model start.py because I'm not going to connect with the database here. So I don't need that. And I've got the views where the function is written and the URLs to map to that view, and a HTML template to render the data and to see what data it is. So I've got the URL here which I mentioned earlier, and I need the API key along with this URL. So since the key is private, I have kept it in settings.py, but the API key will look something like this, a string. So I'm using this requests object to call the get method of that Wordnik. So when I call this, I'm going to get a response. So this is going to be a response object. So you can just see it here. It's a response object. So I'm just like parsing it into JSON. So for us it'd be easier to see what data is. So let me show you what this Word of the Day will return. So I have returned this in data. So we'll be seeing that in our HTML page. Okay, so this is what the response which we have got from Wordnik looks like. So there is the word, that is the Word of the Day, and the list of definitions, that is you've got the part of speech and text, etc. And then again I've got a list of examples, and there are many other information along with it like the published date, etc., etc. So provided this, I'm not going to use everything in my application. So I will need the word, so the Word of the Day. So I'm just fetching it like this. Since it's a JSON, I'm just getting the key value. And the definitions are a list again. So I'm just getting the the value in the 0th index, and similarly for the example, and I am rendering those. So okay, so we'll see this, what it is giving. So there we've got the word and its meaning along with its example. So this is how the Wordnik API. And to use this API, you've got the developer.wordnik.com. So you'll be using this site. You'll have to sign up and enter your name. So if you want it immediately, if you want to use the API immediately, I think you need to pay, else you can just wait for a week or so and use the API. So this is all about today, and we've come to the end of it. So I hope all of you got an idea of what an API is and how to use the already available API in your Django app. So I feel that it is, I think it's pretty easy. I hope all of you enjoyed this and learned something. So wish you guys a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.